Hello, this is Mike Carter of MikeCarta Custom Knives, along with my fellow knife maker Cliff Fendley of Fendley Custom Knives, and we're going to show you how we make our denim MikeCarta. After cutting several panels of denim out of some old blue jeans, we start trimming it to size. And what we'll be making here today is a piece that's about 15 layers, 8.5 inches by 7.5 inches. When it's all compressed, this should be about 3/8 of an inch thick. I'm trimming the denim on a piece of plywood and just using a straight edge. We use West Systems epoxy. It's a 105 epoxy resin and the 206 slow hardener. Here you see my pieces of denim already trimmed to size and ready to go. They're about 15 layers, and I alternated some darker denim with some lighter faded denim. We found this works best as a two-man operation. Here you can see Cliff saturating the pieces of denim in an aluminum pan, and then he hands it off to me where I place it on a board that we've got clamped to the table, and I squeegee out any air bubbles and make sure every piece is nice and flat and well saturated. We have the board covered with a piece of wax paper, which will just help keep the MikeCarta from sticking to the board. The West Systems epoxy is incredibly strong and durable, some of the toughest stuff that we've ever found to make a knife handle out of. However, it is very expensive at about $150 per gallon. As I squeegee each piece down flat, I take any excess epoxy that I scrape off of it and wipe it on the next piece of denim that I'll hand to Cliff. That reduces the amount of waste that we have. This West System epoxy is incredibly strong stuff. I mean, it's just nearly indestructible. But it is very expensive. It's about $150 a gallon. I estimate we'll probably use about half a pint for this 15-layer piece of this size. It's 8.5 by 7.5 inches. We just mix up a little bit at a time. When Cliff starts running low, I'll mix up a little bit more and pour it into that pan, so that we try to be careful not to mix up more than we will need for a given project. If you're wanting common red or white or green or camo MikeCarta, really you can buy it commercially cheaper than you can make it if you're using this epoxy anyway. We only make our own MikeCarta when we want something that's a unique design or a unique color that's not available commercially. For common colors, white, black, green, you can buy it commercially cheaper than you can make it, especially using this epoxy. Now, there are cheaper resins that you can use. I don't know how they compare, but we know the West Systems, we've done extensive testing with this, and it's literally bulletproof stuff. The day we were doing this, it was fairly cool in the shop, probably around 45 to 50 degrees. And this gave us a little extra working time with the epoxy. Normally you have about 20 or 30 minutes before it starts to cure and set up. On a hot day it can do it much faster, so we've learned to do this in a cool room or on a cool day. Here we're putting the last piece on. making sure it's well saturated, using our last little bit of epoxy that we have mixed up. There will always be a little waste on the edges, little ragged edges that you're going to have to trim off, but you know, if you cut your pieces nice and square and stack them carefully, you can reduce the amount of waste that you have after the piece is finished. After we have the saturated pieces stacked, we cover it with another piece of wax paper. Plastic works just as well or even better. And then we put another board on top of it, and we'll clamp this down with C-clamps and apply even pressure on all four corners. Now we'll go around and measure all points around the board and tighten down the clamps until we've got a uniform thickness all the way around it. Here we're looking for 3/8 of an inch, and it's working out just about right, but we're carefully measuring at all points around the board to make sure it's 3/8 of an inch all the way around. Here it is, all clamped up, ready to cure overnight. You can see we have a drip pan on the floor to catch any excess that will be squeezed out of it and drip off the edge of the board. We let it cure overnight, and the next day we can unclamp it and see what we have. It did stick to our board a little bit, so I did have to use a screwdriver to kind of coax it loose. Yep. And there you see our finished piece. I'll let this cure for another day or two before I start cutting it and working with it. Here's where I've trimmed the rough edges off of the piece. Gave me a finished piece of about 7 by 8 inches. I trimmed about a 1/4 inch off of each side. Here's one of the pieces I trimmed off, and you can see the layers of denim. And here on the face side of it, I sanded it a little bit just so you can see the contrast that we'll get as we go down through the lighter and darker layers. Thanks for watching.